welcome to Happy Hour. I'm your host, Steve Guy. This week's episode, we've got a great conversation with entertainment reporter Chris Van Vliet, plus stand-up comedy from local favorite Brett Thomas. But before that, here's a couple of things that people are talking about their at-home bars right now. In Cleveland, Mayor Frank Jackson admitted that, at least for the last year or two, Cleveland hasn't had a recycling partner. So, while your trash and recycling has been picked up separately, and you've been doing a great job separating, it's all going to one trash landfill. But Mayor Frank wants you to keep rinsing out those plastic jugs and glass bottles because it's a good habit for when recycling does return to the city of Cleveland. You know, Mayor Frank, do you know what it's called when you can actually see through a glass bottle or plastic or anything and, it's not hiding anything? That's called transparent. Maybe work on that. Meanwhile, everybody's been a part of this stimulus package and people have been trying to get loans, especially the small businesses, through the Small Business Administration's Payment Protection Program. And a couple companies that actually got those loans include the Los Angeles Lakers, Shake Shack, Potbelly, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, and AutoNation. They got millions of dollars in loans from the federal government meant for small businesses. But don't worry, they all agreed to return the loans that they applied for. This is like that conundrum when you're growing up and you find money on the street, it's a $100 bill or it's somebody's wallet and it's loaded with cash and you can either keep it for yourself or give it back, or at least try to find out who the owner was because that money wasn't meant for you. Except in this scenario, you already have millions and billions of dollars and the only reason you give it back is because the entire neighborhood keeps coming after you so you don't want to look like a really big shitbag. Every happy hour has this person that comes in that just really wants to unload on whatever is bothering for them today. And we have that person too. Here's a segment that we like to call, What's Bothering John?
I hate food delivery now. I used to love it because it was convenient, but now they scamming me. Like they say food delivery, and then they include a tip the second you say, okay, hell yeah, free delivery. How'd you know I needed it? Thank you, Uber Eats. Then it says, want to give us $5 anyways? For what? You ain't do nothing yet. I'm gonna give you a tip for what? You don't get tip for just trying. That's like extra credit. You don't get an A from extra credit. You get 5 points out of 300. You don't change your grade with extra credit. Tips don't change anything. I'm not gonna tip you for driving. I didn't tell you to drive. I didn't ask you to do this shit for me. I didn't call you like, hey man, can you go to the store for me and grab me some? No. And here I am supposed to give you a $5 tip. You ain't even did shit yet. Like I hate that because I don't tip them. I gotta get my food right first.
Okay, that's fair.
Whoever picking up my food don't think about I gotta eat it too. So they don't give me any napkins or utensils at all. So I'm supposed to eat it with my bare hands, or I gotta dirty my own dishes. So why am I paying $7 for you to bring me food and I gotta still use my shit in my house? I should be able to throw all the shit away. I should be paying for trash. That's what I want to pay for. You want me to tip you for that? No. I ordered from Wingstop. And I got my food, but my girl, she ordered some ranch and they didn't give her a ranch. I got my blue cheese, she ain't got no ranch. I'm like, you didn't really? We made sure we ordered two different things. We ordered two different orders and we made sure that was a dot that was selected and we don't get the goddamn ranch. We supposed to tip you. I had to go to the store and I don't want to drive. I had to go to the store and buy ranch. And it never tastes the same. I don't know what kind of ranch they got at
Wings. Restaurant ranch. Yeah,
restaurant ranch is always better. I'm getting kind of like classes with the different food deliveries. So Uber Eats, I know what I'm getting. I know that I'm not getting bag fries. Like Uber Eats and DoorDash, if I order anything with fries and that's on like Chick-fil-A, I'm not getting my bag fries. And it's like they don't pack fries better in the bag. They still there. This bastard is going in there, reaching in my food and eating my bag fries. You never get bag fries. If you know what bag fries are, those are fries that fall out into the bag. Yes, everybody loves a bag fry. It's like the pleasant surprise after, and this motherfucker's eating my bag fries. Like, that's my bag fries. I'm not paying you a tip for giving you lunch, too. You're not going to eat my fries and get $7. Like, I'm not tipping you now. Like, I'm so annoyed by this. Like, who said this is okay? Why are they doing this like this? And then, like, I hate a fat, don't be a fat delivery person.
It's not good to call people fat anymore, John.
Well, they don't like that name. Where they're going to be all obese Americans and shit. Like, them, no. Because you never trust a fat person. Because anything wrong with the food, the fat person's fault. And I don't want to judge them like that. But I know it's their fault. Somehow, if you fat, you know how to eat, which means you know what I'm going to need. You know before I do. You eat so much, you know what I'm going to need. You're like, oh, he need more napkins. I've ate this before. Look out for me. Instead, you come here and I ain't got no bag for, and you fat. Oh, you getting blamed for all this shit. I'm writing you up. I'm gonna get my Karen on.
This is probably a good moment to remind everyone that the thoughts and opinions and views of John Bruton are that of his own and don't necessarily reflect everybody hanging out during happy hour. Anyway, let's get into our interview. It's a great conversation with YouTube interviewer and entertainment reporter, plus he's been in some movies, Chris Van Vliet. Joining me now for a happy hour is a guy who is super talented, does all sorts of stuff. Maybe depending on where you live, you used to watch him on the news as an entertainment reporter, but now he's doing it all on his own, and you've probably seen a ton of his wrestling interviews. I just like to think of him as my friend. Chris Van Vliet, welcome to Happy Hour.
Thank you, and I'm very excited for whatever drink you're going to pour me during Happy Hour.
I mean, I can pour it for you, and then I can also drink it. But I mean, there's no huge.
You'd be like my surrogate drinker.
I guess that's how that works.
Yeah.
What's Chris Van Vliet's drink of choice right now these days?
I think that if you and I were to go to a bar tonight, and you know this is always like very dictated by like what the scenario is, but I've been very into like going to breweries, so I really like craft beer. I think it's hard to say no to that. But if you and I were to have a beverage, it'd probably be like a Moscow Mule or an old fashioned.
You know, I know how to make those.
Well, well, sign me up. I was so excited the other day. I bought one of those ice ball makers, like so you get the big whiskey ice ball.
Oh, man. You made you got the ball, not because you can get the big squares as well. Some people like the squares instead of the round.
Well, I got the ball, and it's life changing. Like you can sip on that whiskey for an hour and a half, and the ice is still in there.
Yeah, and it doesn't get watered down. It's
That's right.
It's fantastic. I have the squares, and actually I have 2 ice balls, and then I have some squares depending on what I'm drinking. I don't know why. It's whatever I feel like, you know.
And that's what it really is. Yeah.
People who are watching, most of them don't know that you and I became friends basically through this show, but like a first iteration of it. I used to do Upload with Steve Guy, and it was very Cleveland centric of people I interviewed. You were an entertainment reporter in Cleveland at the time, and I was like, hey man, would love to come interview you. You said, sure, come on over, come to the Channel 19 news station. Showed up with the camera. Yeah. We chatted. Friendship.
Yeah, which was great. And I don't even like, how did it go from there? Like that interview was so much fun. We basically just hung out for the entire interview, but then where did it go from there? How did we hang out again?
Well, you were disappointed that you couldn't be at the live taping because we used to tape it live at a bar that no longer exists called Liquid and has since changed itself into something else, a little bit of a facelift. But so you came there when you got off of work and we finished filming the rest of the episode because you're like, well, I'd like to meet everybody that's a part of it and say hi. And you did, and we hung out, and then I don't know.
I think honestly, it comes back around to what we were just talking about. I think it was alcohol because you're like, yeah, we've got like a tab here. So what do you want? And I'm like, did you say free drinks? And that was it. I'm a sucker for that.
So from Cleveland, where you were for years, and then you moved to Florida, and I only want to touch on it because I'm such a good friend that when you moved from the house that you were renting and you said, I want to live on South Beach for a year, I came down for like a 95-degree day moving.
And that's how you know that you're a true friend. And I'm very grateful for you for that. So you came down. Thank you. Then you got heat stroke as you were moving me into this South Beach apartment. And I'm like, man, let's eat pizza and drink. And you're like, I think I can only do the pizza right now, man.
So let's talk about what you are doing now, why you are moving to Los Angeles, because I know some of these answers, but I know everybody else doesn't, because you're a guy who often sits on the other side of this thing. You're interviewing everybody else. People know you from YouTube wrestling, with your wrestling interviews, which are always a blast to watch. You know, it's not every day I get to watch my friend willingly get beat up and take chops, which is bleeding from his chest. But so it's a little bit of that, but there's more that you have planned for yourself.
Well, it was just that, like, I've been in broadcasting now for 15 years. I've been so super grateful to be able to do this for a living. And, my whole goal when I was in college was to have a job that I didn't hate. I wanted a job that I was excited to go to at the start of the day and proud of what I'd accomplished at the end of the day. And I've worked in various different cities, from a small town in Ontario, just outside of my hometown, to Vancouver, to Toronto, to Cleveland, and in Miami. So my career here in the US has been, since 2010, I've been able to work as an entertainment reporter in Cleveland for the CBS affiliate, Fox affiliate in Miami. And I just kind of was doing these wrestling interviews on the side. Like whenever a wrestler would come into town for Raw, SmackDown, Impact Wrestling, whatever it happened to be, I would do an interview. We'd play, a 15, 20-second clip on TV. And then I felt like there was an opportunity to like show the rest of the interview that didn't make it on TV. So I just started uploading these Raw interviews to YouTube thinking, I liked the questions I asked. I'm a fan. I thought that it was interesting. Another fan out there must like it too. So I just put them on there and they just kind of started to grow, and it started becoming its own thing that I was doing these wrestling interviews in addition to being an entertainment reporter, red carpet reporting, interviewing some of the biggest celebrities in the world. And in Miami, it was actually getting to a point where I was doing a ton of wrestling interviews. I was taking days off and flying myself to various destinations to do these interviews. So when I had the opportunity to do some work with AEW, I was on their first episode of Dynamite. I was just like, well, here's the chance now to kind of follow my own path here and see where that takes me. And that path has now taken me to my YouTube channel, continuing to grow. My podcast is, continuing to grow. I've been in some commercials recently, and I just know that all roads here, everything I'm talking about has to lead to Los Angeles because that's where the job opportunities are. And I think you can't really get a lot of those opportunities unless you're there. So, that's the plan. I'm going to move out there and continue to do what I'm doing now and hopefully do something even bigger. And, to borrow a line from Cody Rhodes when he talked about leaving WWE and doing what he's doing now, he bet on himself. And that's what I want to do. And I want to bet on myself and know what my strengths are and see where this takes me.
You had this viral moment where a couple of young ladies were making moves on you during the interview.
Yeah, this moment
Dakota
with
Fanning,
Dakota Johnson and Leslie Mann.
Dakota Johnson,
basically,
different people.
Basically, started asking me to take my shirt off during the interview and were hitting on me out of nowhere. I didn't expect this. It became quite the moment, and like they were talking about on the Today Show and talking about on like late night shows.
Give me like 3 of your favorite interviews you've ever done.
Well, so you talk about the Dakota Johnson, Leslie Mann moment that went viral. I've had a lot of these viral moments, which is mind blowing to me to think about. And it's actually like I have 83 million views on YouTube, but a lot of those I think people don't realize have come from like these viral moments. Like I talked to Donald Glover about his Childish Gambino music video, and it got 7 million views in like a day, which was wild to me. I basically said, do you want to explain the music video? And he's like, no. So that was an interesting one. Any moment with The Rock is obviously great because The Rock's awesome. He's someone I looked up to so much when I was growing up.
Yeah, we'll talk about him.
How many times have we, raised people's eyebrow and yelled, "It doesn't matter" at people, right?
Yeah.
But I had this viral moment with Anne Hathaway, which has been interpreted in many different ways, where the first photos of her as Catwoman in The Dark Knight Rises had just come out, and I was interviewing her for another film. But I said, "Look, how did you get to the shape to, how'd you get in the shape that you're in right now to play that character?" And she gives me some like goofy answer about like, oh, I've been doing tricep kicks and, bench curls. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, you look great. Like how much weight did you lose to get into the shape you're in now? And that could have been a funny moment it turned into a funny moment. I was legitimately just asking like a workout / nutrition question. And she turned it into like a funny moment. She's like, oh, what a forward young man you are. How much weight did I lose?
We have had very different experiences with The Rock. So at some point, I'm going to need you to have the conversation with him and come to my defense. Because while you get the fun middle finger on live television, red carpet in Miami, and all these wonderful things, you know, I make a little joke on Twitter, and the Rock fans, which include me, by the way, but the other Rock fans come at me, and I just get the text from you. You're like, well, apparently you made him angry. I'm like,
well, I mean, I think for not everyone, you know, not everyone listening knows what you're talking about here, but you basically commented on The Rock's weight in one of his more recent films.
So what I did was, and it was, you know, The Rock loves to tweet out and talk like he is an everyman, and he has that mindset and mentality. I appreciate it. I think that's why he's so relatable and why we all love him so much.
Yeah.
But he's just not, you know, he has the Iron Paradise, and the Iron Paradise travels with him. Right.
Yes.
So he's like, he's constantly on the road or on sets filming, but he still has this world-class gym that's better than anything you or I have ever been inside of. And, you know, he said, I had to lose 20 pounds. This was really tough, especially with my hectic schedule and all this stuff. And I agree that is tough. And I agree when he responded to me that it's harder to lose 20 pounds of muscle. 100%. I know that. But my point was just like, how he was being such an everyman about it. Like, I got to work hard. I got to work hard. And then you have other people in America who are like, ooh, I got to get 10 more steps in today.
but the Rock does this as part of his, like, you know, it's part of who he is. And I get when you're as big as he is, I think it's hard to, number one, maintain that size.
Oh yeah.
It just must be constant eating, and obviously lifting is a big part of his day. That he starts every day in the gym, but it's also just hard to change. I think that if he were to try to lose that weight, man, that's not easy. As you know, it's not easy to sculpt your body. And I think he's basically saying, hey, I'm really proud of myself for this. And here comes Steve Guy being like, hey, come on, Rock. Like, you know, we'd all look like you if we were rich.
Obviously, there's not a whole lot going on. What's on the immediate horizon here for Chris Van Vliet, aside from, you know, apologizing to The Rock on behalf of your friend?
Yeah. So I'll get to that as soon as we're done here. I'll get to that for you. No problem. I'm sure DJ will be very understanding.
DJ.
That's what we call him, you know.
You guys are on the initial.
Of course.
CVV and D. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing as many interviews as I can like this. And for the longest time, my biggest thing was I want to be able to be in person with someone. I want to be able to look them in the eye, feel their energy, shake their hand, and have, like, you know, a conversation with someone. Because, you know, even if it's just 1% better to do it in person, I think that 1% is what makes, you know, one interview stand out over another. So without that, I've been doing them like this on the same streaming platform that you and I are talking on right now. So that's what I've been doing, packing up. You know, I'm moving to LA in less than 2 months, and my fingers are crossed that things are going to be, you know, starting to open back up by June there. And I don't see why they shouldn't be. I think that this has gone from, like, obviously, you know, it is a major health concern, but I think that it's kind of shifted from keeping this, you know, from spreading and the health concern to, it's now shifting to, like, this is going to have massive effects on the economy. We've known that for a long time, but it's also having massive effects on, you know, people's day to day, and depression and domestic abuse. And I think that that's something that I think is going to start to be on the forefront as we reach, you know, week 6 and 7 and 8 of this quarantine. I think that those are the things that are going to need to start to be looked at first, as the health stuff is kind of already being handled a little bit more.
As part of our friendship is an ongoing thing, is you being one of the biggest proponents, and one of those was facial hair. When I had a huge, massive,
I loved it.
It was so much of it was for you, because it was, you should just grow your beard so big, because I can't grow one.
You're my surrogate drinker and beard grower.
And, I'm sure that there are fans of AIW, Absolute Intense Wrestling, that are going to be watching this. And what those of you don't know is that, again, if not for Chris Van Vliet, I would not be a part of AIW. It all starts with you taking me to shows.
Well, and I think that at the root of this is just like it's not, it's that dumb cliche phrase about it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I think it's just more about like, what are the connections that you're making today or you made yesterday, that how can those help you out? And I think that too many people look at these like situations of like, they meet someone new and they go, oh, great, nice to meet you, and they immediately start thinking of like, how can this person help me? And that's not what I mean. What I mean is like, maybe someone you met 6 months ago knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. And I think it's good to, provide value in those situations. And that's exactly what you did. You're the ring announcer at AIW because it started with you basically going to them and going, how can I help you? Not going, hey, you need a new ring announcer? I'm your guy. You went in and showed them how you could provide them with value. And it just built from there. I love it. So congrats to you.
Well, sir, thank you for joining me for happy hour. This was great. Whenever we are allowed to have human interaction again in the same place, of course, would love for you to visit Cleveland, and you can be on a third iteration of my show.
Let's do it. And other than that, I'll see you in Los Angeles June 12th as we have a drink as the movers are unpacking, right?
Absolutely. I'll make you you have to have the stuff. You got to have the materials, but I will make you an old fashioned or Moscow Mule if you so wish.
I'll have both.
Okay. I'll talk to you soon, my friend. Thank you.
All right, thanks, brother.
Always great to catch up with Chris. Can't wait to see him in person and apparently make a Moscow Mule for him that I guess I owe him now. Now, folks, it's time for a little bit more fun. Here's a great stand-up clip from local Cleveland favorite. This was filmed at Hilarities inside Pickwick and Frolic in downtown Cleveland. It's Brett Thomas.
Are you guys ever rude to an attractive waitress on purpose, hoping she spits in your food? Having a waitress spitting your food is like your parents getting divorced. You don't see it coming, and it's probably your fault. To not be weird or creepy to women, I treat hitting on women at the bar like I talk to children. Don't say anything sexual or touch them. Women also like a guy that's mysterious, so I started wearing shirts with question marks on them. I even have a shirt with a regular question mark and an upside down question mark for Spanish women. My 8-year-old nephew found out I was doing comedy and he wrote this joke and wanted me to tell you guys it. Do you guys want to hear it? Okay, awesome. Me and my 8-year-old nephew are watching the movie Snakes on a Plane. And he looks at me and goes, Brett, if I was in the movie Snakes on a Plane and I got hungry, I would order a Philly cheesesteak. What if I told you guys I wrote that one?
That Brett Thomas is one funny dude. Hey, it's time for a tip from the bartender before we get you out of here. This one comes to us from an anonymous source who wants to know what to do when somebody in a group of friends lets one rip, passes gas, and then starts to blame it on you. Do you make the whoever smelt it dealt it claim, or do you just punch said friend in the head and then carry on with the rest of your evening? Here's what I'm going to say. Don't punch anybody in the head because now you've created a problem for us as bartenders, all right? It's bad enough. Our tasks get difficult at times, and we don't need that as well. Plus, certain bars have a bouncer who's going to kick you out, maybe kick your ass. None of this that you want, so don't punch anybody in the head. In terms of the childish whoever smelt it, dealt it ordeal, couple ways to get rid of that person. A, just look at them very seriously because they're likely being very childish, and just say, hey, do you need to go check your pants? I think that one always works. Or another favorite of mine, suggest that the entire group move to a different area where it maybe doesn't smell as much and get out of the lingering state. And then you turn to that person who did rip one off and you just look at them and say, no, not you. You stay here. I think that's a fair trade. But hey, I know that this is childish anyway, and also anonymous source who claims to be a longtime fan, we appreciate the fact that you stuck around for the long haul and sat through the one full episode thus far of Happy Hour with Steve Guy. Folks, that's today's show. Hopefully you enjoyed it and had some fun. Join us next week, right back here for Happy Hour with Steve Guy.